In today's show, it's the end of an era. Damian Lillard has been traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. Wow. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you Monday through Friday. Tell your friends about it. Make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. Well, it happened. It finally happened. Around 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday, September 27th, the Damian Lillard era officially ended in Portland. After a months-long saga that in earnest began on July 1st when Damian Lillard formally requested a trade, but really had been going on since the end of the season when Damian Lillard made it clear at his exit interview that if the Blazers didn't try to aggressively build a winner around him, that he would ask for a trade, that he would be headed elsewhere. And when they chose not to do that, he requested a trade. Maybe not formally is not the right word, but through his agency and publicly through media members, he requested a trade. And he wanted to get traded to the Miami Heat. The problem was twofold with Miami. One, their package wasn't super enticing unless they were willing to put all of what they had on the table, and they weren't really willing to put all of what they had on the table, which opened the door to a months-long saga, months-long development of the Blazers finding who else out there would actually be willing to bid for Dame. And we got our answer on Wednesday morning. The Milwaukee Bucks, as part of a 3-team deal, are the team willing to make a trade for Damian Lillard. Here are your details. As reported by several outlets, including The Athletic and ESPN and Turner Sports, Chris Haynes, everybody got it. The Blazers trading Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks as part of a 3-team deal that includes the Phoenix Suns. The Blazers will receive Jrue Holiday from the Bucks, DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns, Toumani Camara from the Phoenix Suns, Milwaukee's unprotected 2029 first-round draft pick, and the rights to swap picks in 2028 and 2030 with Milwaukee. The Blazers are sending out in the deal Yusuf Nurkic, Nazir Little, and Keon Johnson, who will head to the Suns, along with Grayson Allen of the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Blazers, Jrue, Ayton, and Toumani Camara. I will probably dive deeper into what this trade looks like when it is finalized. Because I don't think the reporting from Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN is that Jrue Holiday's not going to remain with the Blazers. They're going to try to find another place to trade him. It would kind of make sense if they traded him to the Heat. Shout out Heat culture. First of all, shout out Heat culture. Thank y'all for listening all summer long. I can't believe it didn't end up there. So I'm not going to dive too much into how it works and all that because I think there's still going to be some moving parts here. But I want to address first the trade on its face, and we'll do a whole Dame episode later this week, as promised. Damian Lillard deserves more than an 8-minute segment on this particular program. But let's talk broadly speaking with a TBD on sort of what the final version of this trade is going to look like. Because it might rope in more teams, or it might be a separate transaction for Jrue. We'll see how it happens. But the sort of framework of the deal is the Blazers end up with one unprotected pick, a couple swaps, DeAndre Ayton, and a young player in Toumani Camara, and Jrue Holiday of sorts. If you're not familiar with Camara, he He went to Georgia and Dayton. He's a Belgian forward, 6'8" forward, who was a second-round pick in 2023, the 52nd overall pick in the NBA draft by Phoenix. I like the risk on Ayton. I think that Deandre Ayton is straight up better than Jusuf Nurkic. They're very different players. Ayton is just like a really good offensive center who, his motor doesn't always run hot enough and he doesn't bring it on defense, and he's not like a big rebounder, shot blocker, steals type of guy on defense. But he can shoot from the mid-range. He's got good touch with both hands. He's a lob threat. He can score out of the post. He can face up. Like he's a really interesting offensive player, and I think it is worth the gamble by the Blazers, because for a young team, taking a gamble on someone who is, and the knock on Ayton is that he's just vastly overpaid, right? His contract's too big. But for a young team, the money doesn't really matter that much. Like the Blazers aren't going to be in a situation where it's like, it matters. The money and like contract efficiency matters for teams who are trying to be good. For the Blazers who are trying to build to be something good, the money doesn't matter in the immediate term. And Ayton as the centerpiece in a Dame trade, and that's really what he becomes here. And Ayton as the centerpiece in the Dame trade is a worthwhile risk. It is maybe not what I envisioned when I had been talking about this all summer, and you'll recall that I thought all summer that Dame was just going to eventually get traded to the Heat and they'd find a resolution. But Miami was either unable or unwilling to come forward with a deal that enticed the Blazers, so they ended up going to this other route. And to many of you who said, like, it's going to be a Donovan Mitchell Cavs situation where a team that's totally off the radar swoops in, you were right. This was a Donovan Mitchell Cavs situation. It wasn't the 5 picks and the haul, but it was a team that was pretty much off the radar swooping in. I want to talk about the swoop in a second, but spend a moment more on Ayton. I think as the centerpiece in a Dame trade, a young center, former number 1 overall pick, but like whatever, I think like where you got drafted doesn't matter that much once you're this deep into the league, but like a talented 18 and 10 type center and a pick and roll option to pair with Scoot, and like something that makes sense. The big reason that they didn't do the Miami deal is because their parts didn't make sense. It's like Tyler Hero, okay, great. Like they don't need more guards. Same reason they're probably not going to hold on to Drew. They don't need more guards. They're committed to this Scoot, Shea, and Anthony Simons trio, and if you add a 4th guard into the mix, it's messy. I think Ayton is a really interesting pairing with those gentlemen because he's a pick and roll threat, and he just fits what they needed. He fits the risk that they needed. Do I think Deandre Ayton is going to blossom into an all-star once he gets out of the shackles of the desert, as I've joked? No, but I think there is a very reasonable chance that he is a better basketball player out of Phoenix than he was in Phoenix. And the Blazers, it is a worthwhile risk to make. Is it this super duper home run? Remains to be seen. But it is at least the in terms of fit and youth that like kind of fits how young they are and what they want to do. And a player who can grow with their young parts and projects, get better as long as on the same sort of trajectory as the Blazers youngsters get better. This is a worthwhile risk. TBD on sort of how much it pays off, but I view this as a worthwhile risk. Nurk wasn't going to be, Nurk was a reasonable starting center if they weren't going to find an upgrade. They found an upgrade for him, and Phoenix got what they wanted. Grayson Allen, Nazir Little, and Jusuf Nurkic, turning DeAndre Ayton's money into 3 playable parts, like more depth on a team that needs more depth. You got to find trades happen because teams get what they want. Milwaukee got what they want. They got Damian Lillard. And I think this is the gamble that comes about because of a certain type of urgency. Let's talk about that urgency. Let's talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo and public bullying when it goes right in the second segment. First, I want to tell you about DoorDash. You might know DoorDash from bringing you your favorite restaurants to your couch when you don't want to cook. But what about when you do want to cook, but you just don't have the ingredients? You're missing, we don't have any baking soda and I need a shallot, or I'm not going to be able to put this delicious savory crepe recipe I have dreamed up together. Well, enter DoorDash. You can get groceries delivered on the app. That same app that used to bring you your favorite food is now also bringing you your necessary groceries. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you'll find the best in your neighborhood. Plus, you'll boost the local economy with each and every order. You'll get exactly what you ordered, or DoorDash will make it right. So sit back, enjoy those quality groceries just like you picked them out yourself. You want even more value? You can save on all your groceries and your restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee on all eligible orders when you sign up for the DoorDash Dash Pass membership. With easy substitutions right in the app and best-in-class customer support, DoorDash delivers groceries exactly how you want them. So, right now, get 50% off your DoorDash order up to $20 value when you use the code LOCKEDONNBA at checkout. It's a limited time offer and terms apply. That's 50% up to $20, no minimum subtotal, and $0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code LOCKEDONNBA. Don't forget, that's the code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off with your first DoorDash order. All right. So, it happened in the way that many of you predicted, and this dummy said, I don't know, I can't see a team we haven't heard from swooping in. And then a team out of nowhere, and the exact type of team that was going to be trading for Dame is a champion, a title contending type team, swoops in pretty much out of nowhere with no real smoke around Milwaukee. I saw people float the idea, what if the Bucks get involved? But no real reporting. No like, hey, we've heard that the Bucks have some traction here. Mostly just like smart basketball people being like, the Bucks should call. Why wouldn't the Bucks call? And some fans I saw for sure who made the case. So how does a team go from, not in the conversations? I would say, I did a whole show yesterday on Toronto's interest, right? Whether Toronto was a smokescreen or whether it was real interest that just couldn't materialize because they couldn't work out a deal, and this deal ended up better to, it seems like the Blazers really wanted DeAndre Ayton. They were really closely tied to Ayton throughout the reporting here, and it was a team that could facilitate them moving off Nurk, trading Dame, and getting DeAndre Ayton as the centerpiece. I think they identified at some point over the last week or so, month to 10 days, saying like Ayton is the best piece we can get, like in terms of just like raw talent risk we can get. Let's make it happen. Let's find a deal where Phoenix can get what they want, which is Jusuf Nurkic to be their starting center, some more depth, and Ayton. And the Blazers found it with Milwaukee and with Drew Holiday. So how does Dame get there? Well, it starts with Giannis Antetokounmpo publicly bullying the front office. For those of you who say, I don't like player empowerment, you know who just got empowered? Giannis Antetokounmpo, who got empowered to stay still. Got empowered to stay home, sign a big old contract, and go for it with a player that he famously picked first in the All-Star game player draft. The people will put more meaning on that. But for sure, like Dame and Giannis, I think they've publicly mentioned each other several times, including, considering Giannis Antetokounmpo famously, like, I don't work out with anybody, but I would be willing to work out with Dame. That was like a news cycle thing. Like, they like each other. They clearly have admired each other's games. And they're going to fit very well together with what they do. A Dame Giannis pick and roll is really good. But the public bullying worked. Giannis Antetokounmpo, in a story in the New York Times that published in August, basically said, I want to play for the Bucks, but everybody's got to be on the same page and they got to prove that they're willing to go for it. And if they're not willing to go for it, I will go consider other options. He's eligible, a contract extension eligible this summer, but it doesn't really make sense to sign it now, but also next summer when it will make sense to sign a fat contract, you sign a bigger 4-year deal. And Giannis said, I'm not going to sign one now because it doesn't make sense, but I won't sign one next summer if they don't show me that we're all committed. So the Bucks said, hey, let's trade for a 33-year-old coming off of the best offensive season of his career, maybe the best just like straight up season of his career. Drew Holiday was probably the second best player when they won the championships, probably the second best player on the team when they won the title in 2021. Drew's a big part of that core. Excellent basketball player, but they're willing to move off him and his elite level defense for one of the best offensive players in the league. And it's because Giannis Antetokounmpo held their feet to the fire a little bit. First, he does it in the New York Times. Then he goes on. I should have looked this up, but he went also publicly spoke on a podcast where he was like, I'm a Milwaukee Buck, but first and foremost, I'm a winner. And if they don't want to win, I'm not a Milwaukee Buck. It worked. He bullied him. It worked. And now Dame ends up in Milwaukee. And I'm going to spend more time on Dame in a little bit. Like later this week, I will have Friday show as it is planned now will be an appreciation of Damian Lillard because I believe he deserves more than just this. But I'll leave it here for now as I'm recording this just after the news broke at like 1 p.m. on Wednesday. So those of you who listened to yesterday's show, you know these things don't always have a long shelf life. But that's why we do one every day, and that's why you listen to the show every day. I am happy that Dame is happy because I think a resolution in which the Blazers take get a useful part and a really interesting risk in Deandre Ayton, not even that big of a risk for him, but an interesting upside young player. And Dame gets to go where he wants to go. I think a resolution where both sides can be happy was always going to be the best version of this. If they sent Dame somewhere he didn't want to go, like, I'm not going to be like, poor Damian Lillard, what's he going to do with $500 million and having to live in Canada? Like, I wasn't going to feel sorry for him, but I think after 11 years with the franchise and the way he has been a representative of the franchise and a representative of the community, if they could do what former guest on the show, Bob Witt said, former Blazers GM said, is like find a deal that fits what they want and fits what Dame wants, that's what you pursue, right? You find, hey, these are 3 deals we like. Where do you want to go? I want to go play with Giannis. We can't get the Miami thing done for whatever reason, for relatively obvious reasons, but we can't get the Dame deal done or the Miami deal done. How about Giannis? Giannis, great. Maybe the best player in the NBA, right? Like, I think at worst, Giannis Antetokounmpo is like the 3rd best player in the NBA. He's really good. And Dame getting paired with him and Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez, it's like, this is the best team he's ever played on immediately. The Bucks will be in, right now on FanDuel, they're the championship favorites. Some of that is because the trade happened an hour and a half ago, and they know you're excited to bet on the Bucks, so they're willing to take your picks, take your money, but they're willing to take your bets, I should say. They might end up giving you the money, right? That's how that works. Willing to take your bets, willing to take your action. But this is the best team Dame's ever played on. And whether Milwaukee is like the favorites, or you think Boston's still a little bit better, or you think that, who can slow down Denver or whatever it might be, or you're a real big believer in Phoenix's big 3, they're in the immediate inner circle of contenders of the 4 teams, the 4 favorites in the league. Immediate. I don't think you could argue that they're below one of the 4 best teams in the NBA. And I'm happy there was a resolution where Dame can have that. I'm happy for him. I don't know, and deserve got nothing to do with it, but like it is, I think it is a good resolution for both sides that Damian Lillard got what he wanted and the Blazers didn't have to sacrifice. They got what they wanted too. So what's next? I think that's sort of part of this question. Let's tackle the what to do with Jrue Holiday in the 3rd segment. Join me there, won't you? Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. So part of the reason I don't want to give this grade or trade a grade or even give my, okay, here's the final deal and here's what the team's going to look like, and we'll do that for sure, right? Like we will get there. But I think for now it's an incomplete because the Blazers aren't going to keep Jrue Holiday. Even if they keep him and he's like, technically on the team for a couple days and they trade him into training camp in a separate deal or whatever it might be. It is clear from the reporting from Adrian Wojnarowski and just the obviousness of the direction this team is. This is a Scoot, Shaedon, Anthony Simons backcourt. Bringing in a veteran guard is not what they want to do, and Jrue Holiday has value. He has value. And I think that will be ultimately how I judge this deal. Because, in the deal, the Blazers sent out Yusuf Nurkic. I think these just straight across Ayton to Nurk thing is an upgrade. I think DeAndre Ayton's just straight up a better basketball player. And the money, which is the sticking point for it, because these things don't happen in a vacuum, is less important, right? I think it's an undeniable thing. Sending Nasir Little and Keon Johnson as kind of just the price of doing business to sort of clear up your roster spots. It means that the Blazers are really clearing playing time for Chris Murray and Jabari Walker, unless, and I think that's where I'm at before I go too deep into what it looks like. Depends on what they get for Drew. You're going to have to take some money back. He's making $36 million a year. So you're not just going to trade him into... Gone are the days with the new salary floor rules in the NBA of trading guys into just space. No team's going to walk into the NBA season with $20 million in cap space. You literally can't do that anymore. So you're going to have to take back some money. You're going to... When you take back the some money... You're gonna, for my preferences, would be to also get some draft picks. I think the 2029 unprotected Bucks pick, that's a long way away, but it's at least a decent bet that Milwaukee will not be a very, very good team in 2029. Unprotected deep into the future, that's totally fine. The swaps in 28 and 30 could be valuable, could be meaningless. The picks are far away though. I think if you could find a taker for Holiday that would allow you to get some picks in the next, 3 drafts, say somewhere in the 24 to 27 range, 4 drafts, I guess that is. That's what I would prioritize. The Blazers could, they could probably use a couple more. They could probably use someone else who could play power forward, another big in there, and all those things. But you're not trying to build the perfect roster with the Drew Holiday trade. I think you got to. You chase assets to some extent here. And in some weird irony, Drew Holiday makes a lot of sense for the Miami Heat. He really does. He really would be a solid get for him. Am I caping for the hero for Drew Holiday swap? I'm not. But if you re-engage Miami and they do end up wanting Drew Holiday and the hero reroute to Charlotte, Brooklyn, Utah, the teams that have been rumored to be interested in Tyler Hero, nets you the assets you want and maybe some young players that you want, that to me is a worthwhile gamble for the Blazers. And I think that's ultimately where I land. Is this a A or a B or a C or whatever? I don't know. Right now, this is an incomplete. I like the deal for Portland. I like it. Do I love it? I don't know yet, but I will say this. It is unequivocally fun. It is fun. It's fun to think about this team running pick and rolls with DeAndre Ayton and Scoot Henderson. It is fun to consider the prospect of Ayton be, an 18-10 lob threat, expanding his game and continuing to be a force as a big old offensive centerpiece. It is exciting, and it's and to be totally honest, my appetite for this dragging on had kind of worn out. I think I had reached some sort of spiritual exhaustion with the Damian Lillard stuff, and I was hoping for a resolution prior to media day, which is Monday. I had long circled that as they'll get it. I thought they would get it done this week. I predicted on the show on Monday. It's there's just a lot of chatter. Seems like they'll get it done. It seems like they're motivated to not bring Dame into camp. If you're watching social media videos, who's not at the practice facility right now? Dame. He's at his house. He's working out in his own gym, not at the team's gym. He's just not been around the team. It's the breakup was on, and now they found a breakup that satisfies what Dame needs, satisfies the Blazers' needs, and I think is potentially very fun for the Blazers. But if nothing else, if it doesn't get the very fun qualifier, fun. DeAndre Ayton's fun. It's, Tumani Kamara, who knows? And whatever they get in a future Drew Holiday deal, who knows? But I think as a centerpiece, getting Ayton is a worthwhile risk, and the Drew Holiday part is an incomplete for me. Okay, now, I usually like to wait on this stuff, right? I like to wait 6-7 hours and kind of get my brain right around it and make sure that my thoughts are clear. I recorded this 90 minutes after the trade happened, or the trade was reported. It hasn't even happened yet, not official by any means. So we will probably revisit this a lot. It's going to also change how we do our player previews going into the future. That's why I didn't do a NERC player preview on today's show, on Wednesday, September 27th show. This is going to, we got more coming on this. Tomorrow's show is going to be a Dame appreciation, but we'll also dive deeper into what the trade looks like finalized, give some more thoughts, talk more about Kamara, talk more about either Drew Holiday, if he is indeed going to be on the roster, although it seems pretty unlikely, or what they do with Drew, dive deeper into Deandre Ayton and what he's going to bring and how he fits into the plan. This is the fun part. We've gotten over the hump of the drama. Now we can focus on real basketball stuff. I'm super excited. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends about it. We do it every day on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts, Monday through Friday, each and every weekday. So join us there. Tell your friends. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.